Alright, here we go. I'm going to remove the bottom of my urn today. This is the same process I use for doing urns, hollow forms, any other vessel, putting in a chuck. So I'm going to take off the bottom, and so I've got my line marked where I know that the inside bottom is supposed to be, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space for the thickness of the bottom and then a little bit more so that I can undercut the base a little bit there. So I'll be measuring off the bottom of that, and that'll give me my reference. Alright, so I've done my initial removing. I've still got my line right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a space about a 1/4 inch or so for the actual bottom of the vessel, and then I'm going to leave about another 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch to get to the very bottom line. I've already measured ahead of time, so I know where that line is that I'm referencing off of is the actual bottom of the object here. Alright, so this line is what I'm going to cut to. That's going to be the actual bottom of the base, and then I'm going to take the remaining area and blend this line up here. As it comes down, I'm going to transition all this and then to blend all this out. And then I will, once I have my base about the diameter I'm looking for, in this case, with this size piece, it's probably going to be about 2 1/4 inches or so in diameter on the base, and then I will undercut back in and leave just a little portion of the tenon left that I will carve off and smooth out after that. So before I remove too much of this tenon area, I like to keep as much material down here in the bottom as I can before I start tackling this area. What I've found is that if you cut this down too soon, then this area up here can run a little bit off balance and it won't hold as true. So I like to kind of get this close to final shape before I start reducing this tenon down to almost nothing. All right, so I've got my shape where I want it. I've started my recess, and so when I'm about at this point, and before I reduce my tenon any further that I have left, I want to go ahead and sand the bottom and get all that blended and transitioned real well. what I'm looking for here is I want to make sure I don't have any tool marks left from this portion and where it transitioned to here. I want to make sure that that transition right there is smooth. And oftentimes when the object's slightly out of balance, it might be a little recess that takes a little bit more sanding. This looks pretty good. So what I like to do is I like to put a little bit of oil of the finish that I'm going to use. These are going to Danish oiled. And I do this primarily as a seal coat. A lot of times if you're turning really green wood, if it still has a lot of water left in it, and as you're turning, particularly a hollow, you can push the water to the outside surface, to your sanded surface, and sometimes you can get watermarks on it that won't really come out later without the removal of just a whole lot of material, and that might ruin your piece. So what I like to do is I like to oil it, and that kind of keeps, and I've found that keeps the water a lot of times from coming out. Now this piece isn't sopping wet, so I don't really have that problem. So from here, I'm just going to clean this area up, reduce this down to as small as I can without it going into any risk of coming off, and then I'm going to clean up the bottom here, and then I will cut it off and then carve it off. Want to make sure there's not any inclusion for risk of breaking. In this case, there's not. I think right there I'm pretty happy with that. So the process I've done from early on is I will cut this off and leave just a little bit of a nub, and then I go get a carving gouge and smooth off the remainder of it, and then clean up the carving marks with a curve scraper, sometimes called a French scraper. And then once those marks are removed, it does pretty well from sanding, from starting at 120 and then going up to 240. So there we go. Alright, so what I was talking about is I'll carve this section here down and then clean that up with a French scraper. Okay, so I've got the nub cleaned off. Let's see. You can maybe see a few of the tool marks still left in there that I got to clean up right now. So this is where the card scraper comes in. This is just a curved scraper I put a little burr on. That does the work. And that'll do it. And so pretty much everything from here can get cleaned up with sandpaper. And I'll start at 120, pull off the rest of those marks. And here's a good view right there. Fairly clean. It'll clean up real easy.